The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the journal.
In Senate, Tuesday, May 26, 2020, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The journal of Monday, May 25, 2020 was read and approved. On motion, Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly, messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees. There is a report of the Rules Committee at the desk. The Secretary will read.
Senator Stuart Cousins from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 7082 by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the civil practice law and rules. Senate Print 7996B by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend the education law. Senate Print 8113A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the public service law. Senate Print 8119C by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the transportation law. Senate Print 8122B by Senator Comrie, an act in relation to extending the deadline for the filing of applications and renewal applications for real property tax abatement programs. Senate Print 8130D by Senator Myrie, an act to amend the election law. Senate Print 8138B by Senator Martinez, an act to amend the real property tax law. Senate Print 8181A by Senator May, an act to amend the general municipal law. Senate Print 8182A by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the education law. Senate Print 8189 by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the general business law. Senate Print 8192B by Senator Hoylman, an act in relation to prohibiting the eviction of residential tenants who have suffered financial hardship during the COVID-19 cover period. Senate Print 8236A by Senator Gorin, an act related to authorizing local governments to extend building permits and local zoning boards. Senate Print 8243C by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the banking law. Senate Print 8245A by Senator Parker, an act to require the Department of Health to conduct a study on the health impacts of COVID-19. Senate Print 8251B by Senator Kaminsky, an act to amend the general municipal law. Senate Print 8275A by Senator Martinez, an act to amend the labor law. Senate Print 8289B by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the public health law. Senate Print 8362A by Senator Serrano, an act in relation to requiring the COVID-19 contact tracers be representative of the cultural and linguistic diversity of the communities in which they serve. Senate Print 8363 by Senator Harcum, an act to amend the executive law. Senate Print 8397A by Senator Savino, an act to amend the labor law. Senate Print 8400 by Senator Benjamin, an act to amend the general municipal law and the New York State Financial Emergency Act. Senate Print 8408 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the not-for-profit corporation law. Senate Print 8410 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the education law. Senate Print 8411 by Senator Jackson, an act to amend the administrative code of the City of New York. Senate Print 8412 by Senator Benjamin, an act to amend the business corporation law. Senate Print 8413 by Senator Benjamin, an act in relation to authorizing municipalities to place a moratorium on tax foreclosures and tax lien sales. Senate Print 8414 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the criminal procedure law. Senate Print 8415 by Senator Bailey, an act to repeal subdivision 4 of section 240.35 of the penal law. Senate Print 8416 by Senator Metzger, an act to amend the public health law. Senate Print 8417 by Senator Krueger, an act to amend the local finance law. Senate Print 8418 by Senator Krueger, an act to amend the public authorities law. Senate Print 8419 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act in relation to enacting the Emergency Rent Relief Act of 2020. Senate Print 8420 by Senator Gurnardez, an act to amend the retirement and Social Security law. All bills report direct to third reading.
All those in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The report is accepted. Reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator Janaris.
Mr. President, let me first say it's good to see you again. It's been a little bit. I move to adopt the resolution calendar.
All in favor of adopting the resolution calendar signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Janaris.
At this time, Mr. President, can we take up the reading of the supplemental calendar?
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 639, Senate Print 7082 by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the civil practice law and rules.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Fennington, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Hoylman to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Deputy Leader, and my colleagues who are in this chamber during this extraordinary time. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention at the outset the death of a great leader in my community, Larry Kramer, social activist, founder of ACT UP, GMHC, public intellectual, and general rabble-rouser who passed today. Mr. President, a little over a year ago, I stood in this chamber as we finally passed the Child Victims Act after over a decade of trying under the leadership of Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins. We finally got it done to give adult survivors 1 year to file retrospective claims for charges of sexual child abuse that they had leveled against individuals or institutions who may have harbored those individuals. But since that time, something extraordinary has happened, which we are all experiencing. We have been thrown into the depth of a pandemic, while at the same time, thousands of survivors, over 2,000 individuals have come forward as plaintiffs in Child Victim Act lawsuits. But about halfway through their efforts to bring justice to these survivors, of course, COVID-19 hit, which has literally made it impossible to file CVA cases in New York City between March 16th and March 25th of this year. The ripple effect is going to extend outward, Mr. President, because we know it's not just with the snap of the fingers that everyone's lives resume to normal. That is why I'm so grateful to my colleagues, to Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, to Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal and Speaker Hasty for giving adult survivors of child sexual abuse another year until August 14th, 2021 to seek justice in court and face the perpetrators of their abuse. This additional time, Mr. President, has been confirmed by other states who have extended look-back windows, California, Hawaii, New Jersey, just to name a few, and will enable us to make good on our promise that adult survivors of child sexual abuse are able to go into a court of law and seek that justice they so greatly deserve. I vote aye, Mr. President.
Senator Hoylman to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Serino to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have to say it's great to be back. I rise today to explain my vote in support of this bill. As I have said since day one, these victims absolutely deserve justice. Every time one of these brave individuals speak out, we are one step closer to getting those heinous monsters off of our streets. However, when I voted in support of the original Child Victims Act, I rose to explain my vote and noted that I didn't believe it went far enough when it comes to expanding the statute of limitations or holding perpetrators criminally responsible for their despicable acts. At the time, I expressed hope that the bill would only be the first step in this regard. As we vote today to extend this bill, I want to reiterate my earlier points. If there is one thing that hearing from countless victims has taught me, it's that clearly our laws aren't doing a good enough job of protecting vulnerable children to begin with. That's why I introduced legislation to help better protect them by making every adult who works with them mandated reporters. I think most New Yorkers would be shocked that that's not the case. I know I was. I introduced this legislation in response to a horrible case in my community where 2 young boys were victimized by a local county legislator. The boys did the right thing and bravely reported the crime to those they trusted, those in positions of power who could have stopped the abuse. People that instead chose not to report the abuse to law enforcement. My bill would go a long way in protecting New York's children, and as I said last year, I'm willing to work with anyone on either side of the aisle to get it passed into law. The bill passed unanimously when it came before us in this chamber, and it is my hope that as we recognize the need to ensure these victims get justice, we do all we can to prevent children from ever being victimized in the first place. Thank you, Mr. President. I vote aye, and thank you, Senator Hoylman.
Senator Serino, to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 640, Senate Print 7996B by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Carlucci to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank all my colleagues for coming together in this unprecedented time to take up these measures today. This is extremely important to address the health concerns, the economic concerns that our residents are facing. As of yesterday, we had 23,564 fatalities in the state of New York, and we know that number would be even worse if it weren't for our local officials and our state officials coming together to take action. The legislation before us today, right now, is to allow for our school districts to make sure that they get the full funding of aid. We saw that our school districts had to jump into action. Many of them acted before the executive order was put in place, before the state of emergency was put into place, and this legislation is essential to make sure that our school districts get every penny that they're entitled to. This is not only important for our schools and our children, but also our property taxpayers. We know our children do not lack capacity, they only lack opportunity. Let's make sure that they get it. I'll be supporting this legislation. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to my colleagues.
Senator Carlucci to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 641, Senate Print 8113A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the public service law.
Oh, the bill will be laid aside.
Calendar number 642, Senate Print 8119C by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the transportation law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 643, Senate Print 8122B by Senator Comrie, an act in relation to extending the deadline for the filing of applications and renewal applications.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed. Calendar 644 is high and will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 645, Senate Print 8138B by Senator Martinez, an act to amend the real property tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results. Oh. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 645, voted in the negative, Senator Mayer. Ayes 60, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 646, Senate Print 8181A by Senator May, an act to amend the general municipal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 647, Senate Print 8182A by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect no sooner than 90 days from the date of approval of a COVID-19 immunization.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 648, Senate Print 8189 by Senator Hoylman, an act to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Hoylman to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I promise I'm smiling underneath this mask at you and your leadership in this extraordinary time. As the saying goes, Mr. President, after the storm come the vultures. And during the storm of COVID-19, we've seen a lot of those vultures. Bad actors have cynically used this pandemic to reap an enormous windfall on products from hand sanitizer to disposable gloves. We have an anti-price gouging law that protects consumers, and the AG has already invoked it against more than 1,500 violators. But as we've seen during this crisis, consumers are not the only ones getting ripped off too. Hospitals and governments get gouged also. Just this morning, there are reports that a pharmacist named the Masked Man was arrested for doing just that. His name is Richard Sharippa, and he bought thousands of N95 masks and sold them at a 50% markup. The Masked Man even bragged, "I feel like a drug dealer standing out there." Other virus profiteers have tried to rip off New York State directly. According to ProPublica, New York was forced to pay sky-high prices for medical supplies. Gloves were costing 2,000% more than usual. Masks cost $7.50 each, 15 times the normal price. Infusion pumps cost $2,795, twice the normal price. And healthcare facilities face similar challenges. St. Joseph Hospital in Yonkers was the victim of a price gouging scheme where $8 masks that usually were sold to them that usually cost the hospital 50 cents. $25 for protective shields that usually cost the hospital $1.25. Well, that's unconscionable. And this new legislation that we're passing today, with the support of our leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins, my Democratic colleagues, and I trust my colleagues across the aisle, will be able to crack down on these virus profiteers in the following ways. It will ban price gouging on essential medical supplies and service. It will ban price gouging against hospitals, healthcare providers, and state and local governments. It'll allow the Attorney General to fine violators up to $25,000 per occurrence and give the AG new regulatory power they need to be flexible in fighting future price gouging. This is a historic expansion of our price gouging statute. I'm so grateful to everyone who helped pass this legislation and the Attorney General for working with us in our conference to make it as strong as possible. I also want to thank my Assembly sponsor, Neely Rosick, and all of my colleagues in the other House. I'm proudly voting aye, Mr. President.
Senator Hoylman to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 649, Senate Print 8192B by Senator Hoylman, an act and
Laid aside.
calendar number 650, Senate Print 8236A by Senator Gorin, an act relating to authorizing local governments to extend building permits and local zoning boards.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Gorin to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise because this bill may look technical in nature, and yes, it is, but I think it is very important. It will permit local governments at their options to extend by 120 days zoning board, planning board, and building permit applications. And while I think it is very important, is because as New York begins to reopen, we don't want all these municipalities to have to go back and review all these applications that they've already approved. Let them review others that need to move forward. and then allow people to go back and construct and build right away once it is safe for them to operate in their region. So I vote in the affirmative, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Senator Gorin, to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 651, Senate Print 8243C by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the banking law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 61.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 652, Senate Print 8245A by Senator Parker, an act to require the Department of Health to conduct a study on the health impacts of COVID-19 on minorities in New York State.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Parker to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to thank my colleagues for voting for this bill. This has really been, I think, a critically important bill because we're in such a really tragic time. And as all of us deal with this global pandemic, it hasn't treated everybody the same. And particularly in African American and Latinx communities, you are seeing a devastation both in terms of infection rates and deaths that is really cataclysmic in the community. And so this bill asks the Office of Health Disparities in the Department of the New York State Department of Health to do a study so we can actually understand what's going on. We do know some of the effects. We know that African Americans and Latinx communities already start out with a great deal of health disparities. They have the greatest numbers of people with compromised immune systems, and then you add to that comorbidities. And then to add insult to injuries, many of them are essential workers. And so they are, driving buses and, operating trains, and they're working to deliver packages. And then they're also our essential workers in hospitals on the front lines as hospital workers and nurses, doctors, and so on and so forth. They go back then to the most, congested, crowded communities where the virus has spread, and then have to go back to the same facilities that misdiagnosed them and underdiagnosed them the first time to create the health disparities to get treatment. And this has all created a perfect storm of death and disease in the community. We really need to understand more about this and figure out how we undergird our community going forward to stop that. I thank the leader and I thank all my colleagues for voting for this important bill. Thank you, Mr. President. I vote aye.
Senator Parker to be recorded in the affirmative.
Afternoon, everybody.
Senator Kennedy to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise in strong support of this bill to study the disparate health impacts of COVID-19 on minorities, and I'm proud to co-sponsor this bill. While COVID-19 has impacted communities across our entire state, it has been clear that a disproportionate number of persons of color are being infected and dying from this virus. I've seen this in my district, where zip code 14215 in the heart of the east side of Buffalo has some of the highest infection rates in Western New York. 80% of the residents of this zip code are people of color. This isn't a new problem in our state. This especially is not a new problem to Buffalo. In general, African Americans living in Buffalo have higher rates of poverty, higher rates of lung cancer, higher instances of infant mortality, and an increased risk of hospitalization from heart disease and diabetes. Cancer rates are highest in Buffalo zip codes with predominantly people of color living there. Rates are so high that the State Department of Health came in to study what is causing those cancer clusters. 60% of African Americans in Buffalo die prematurely, twice the rate for Caucasians, And the life expectancy in Buffalo of an African American male is a full 12 years less than a white male. These statistics clearly show there's been a disparity in health even before the current pandemic hit. It's not a new problem, but this pandemic is shining a new, bright light on this old problem. This is why I've worked closely with Buffalo with various groups, like with Judge Rose Sconiers and the Greater Buffalo Racial Equity Roundtable, and with Pastors George Nicholas and Kaiser Pointer from the Buffalo Health Disparities Task Force to examine and address the issues that feed into disparate health outcomes. These groups have demonstrated that solutions must come from the community from the ground up. Nothing succeeds without community buy-in. Based on the work of these groups, the University at Buffalo has created an institute dedicated to study and recommend best practices on how Buffalo and New York can help address these health disparities, and we'll be coordinating with the community on research and best practices. A study by the Department of Health on COVID-19 impacts in minority communities is badly needed. It will give a clearer picture on the impact this pandemic has had and hopefully provide solutions to reduce disparate health outcomes in the future. This is a start, Mr. President, but by no means can this be the end. We as a legislature cannot and should not stop until every single person in this state, regardless of race or color, has an equitable opportunity for a healthy life, and we will continue to strive towards that goal. With that, Mr. President, I vote aye.
In the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 653, Senate Print 8251B by Senator Kaminsky, an act to amend the general municipal law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Kaminsky to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We find ourselves here in unprecedented times, doing our best to fight for the people we represent. But whatever we think we're going through is nothing compared to our first responders and our volunteer firefighters who run into danger at a moment's notice. They've put themselves on the front lines, responding to many calls, including COVID calls, and of course, when we're safe in our beds at night asleep, they're ready to jump out of theirs to rush to our aid. That's why it was so important to preserve the pension program known as LOSAP that our volunteer firefighters depend on and that this pandemic put in jeopardy. By changing the rules today, we will make sure that even if some firefighters are not able to come to the firehouse during this pandemic for obvious health reasons, that they won't be penalized as a result. I'm proud to stand up for our firefighters' pension benefits because our volunteer firefighters help make Long Island and our state the great place that it is, and we owe it to them. Mr. President, I vote in the affirmative, and I thank you for your time today.
Senator Kaminsky to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 654, Senate Print 8275A by Senator Martinez.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 655, Senate Print 8289B by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Serino to explain her vote.
And just so everybody in the world knows, I wore my mask in, taking it off so I can speak, so my constituents can see the passion that I have for this subject. So, excuse me. Sorry, I had to run from the conference room. Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is well-intentioned, and I'm going to vote in support of it today because it's important that these facilities, like all healthcare operators, have an effective pandemic plan in place for the future. However, that being said, this bill is grossly inadequate when it comes to addressing the immediate crisis unfolding in our nursing homes, assisted living, and adult care facilities. According to the Associated Press, New York is home to the highest number of nursing home deaths in the nation. As the ranking member of the Senate's Aging Committee, I'm appalled to see that this legislature, which has been called back specifically to address the most pressing issues brought on by the COVID-19 crisis, is not passing a single bill that would seek to immediately reverse these disturbing statistics. Instead, we're passing a bill that expressly deals with future pandemics, hits these facilities with more unfunded mandates, takes already limited staff away from caring for patients, and does absolutely nothing to address the real problems we know they're facing as a result of this pandemic. Since day one, these facilities, which care for our most vulnerable, have been an afterthought to the state. From the March 25th directive that defied common sense and required them to take COVID-positive patients to failing to fully fund testing, the state has failed residents, family members, and facility staff time and time again. And I know because I'm the one taking the phone calls from devastated residents who have not only lost loved ones, but from those who live in fear that their loved one will be next. As the state continues to cling to its bad policy, I have offered suggestion after suggestion, including the creation of an emergency task force to enforce accountability and transparency in the facilities, the creation of specialty care centers to keep COVID-positive patients away from vulnerable residents and out of hospital beds, the utilization of the National Guard to assist with testing, sterilizing facilities, and supporting staff, and the providing of adequate PPE, a serious investment in staffing pools to ensure facilities have access to the trained workforce they need to best care for residents, an independent investigation into the state's handling of this issue, and so much more. Yet, here we are today, taking up just one bill that does absolutely nothing to immediately protect residents or support the facilities who care for them. No one had a choice or a voice when it came to implementing the disastrous policy that jeopardized the health and safety of so many. But today, here we are. They're representatives, and this is the best we can do? I don't think so. These residents, their families, and the hardworking staff who work tirelessly to support them matter, and they deserve better. It is far past time for the state to step up to the plate and do right by these New Yorkers. Thank you, Mr. President. I vote aye, and I will be putting my mask back on. Thank you very much.
Senator Serino to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed. Senator Janaris.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I want to just take a moment to thank Senator Flanagan, Senator Gallivan, and my Republican colleagues for their cooperation in what is unquestionably a unique and unprecedented situation. But I do want to just point out that we do encourage members to wear their masks when speaking. It is particularly when speaking that droplets are more likely to be projected out and put other people at increased risk, which we're trying to avoid. But again, I know everyone's doing their best here, so it's not meant to be critical of anyone in particular. Thank you.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 656, Senate Print 8362A by Senator Serrano, an act in relation to requiring the COVID-19 contact tracers be representative of the cultural and linguistic diversity of the communities in which they represent.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janaris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 656, voted in the negative, Senator Martinez, ayes 61, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 657, Senate Print 8363 by Senator Harkam, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Harkam to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to be back in the chamber, something I don't take lightly or take for granted. As all of us, we've been very busy back in our districts, working with our constituents, helping them cope with the devastation of this virus. But there is also important legislative work for us to do, and today we take a step forward in helping with the healing. One of the things that we have realized during the course of this pandemic is the impact on the vulnerable, particularly in the behavioral health side, people with substance use disorder. A few weeks ago, I convened a statewide meeting of treatment providers and the associations that represent them to find out some of the challenges that they were facing. And a big part of the challenges they were facing, access to PPE, access to hardware for telemedicine, getting regulations changed, was that they didn't have a seat at the emergency management table. And that was unfortunate and unnecessary. And today we're making a change that will give OASIS a seat at New York State's emergency management table so that when the discussions are had on how to get through future crises, not just an illness, but a storm, they will have a seat at the table. Because one thing we see is that when unemployment dips 1%, overdoses shoot up 5%. That's the figure that is used. The Kaiser Family Foundation had a study about 3 weeks ago predicting another 75,000 deaths of despair from self-medication, from alcoholism, from overdose. And so we need a seat at the table for OASIS so that these issues are addressed in comprehensive planning for those who are suffering from substance use disorder. I vote aye. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Harkam to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 658, Senate Print 8397A by Senator Savino, an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 659, Senate Print 8400 by Senator Benjamin, an act to amend the general municipal law and the New York State Financial Emergency Act.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 659, voted in the negative, Senator Martinez, ayes 61, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 660, Senate Print 8408 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the not-for-profit corporation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 661, Senate Print 8410 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 662, Senate Print 8411 by Senator Jackson, an act to amend the administrative code of the City of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 9, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Give them going.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 662, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Amador, Borrello, Boyle, Flanagan, Funky, Griffo, Helming, Jacobs, Gallivan, Lanza, Laval, Little, Martinez, O'Mara, Ort, Ranzenhofer, Ritchie, Robach, Sereno, and Tedesco. Ayes 41, nays 21.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 663, Senate Print 8412 by Senator Benjamin, an act to amend the Business Corporation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 664, Senate Print 8413 by Senator Benjamin, an act in relation to authorizing municipalities to place a moratorium on tax foreclosures and tax lien sales.
Laid aside temporarily.
Calendar number 665, Senate Print 8414 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the criminal procedure law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 30th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 666, Senate Print 8415 by Senator Bailey, an act to repeal subdivision 4 of section 240.35 of the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Ort to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I'm going to vote in the negative on this bill. The governor already has issued an executive order that repeals this provision during the pandemic. To repeal this provision permanently beyond the pandemic, I think is completely unnecessary and, in fact, dangerous when you consider the fact that we're going to allow loitering with a mask in a public place. I can't imagine, outside of this pandemic, why we would ever want to do that, or why we would do that from a public safety standpoint. And certainly if you were to talk to our folks in law enforcement, they would tell you that this law is only going to make their job much more difficult. And I want to just point to some historic facts. These mask laws, or this mask law, I guess, specifically dates back to New York's land riots of the 1840s and was later used by chapters of the Ku Klux Klan and other groups for purposes of intimidation. In fact, in 2004, it was a Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals that the law did not violate free speech rights of supremacist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan. That overturned a previous district judge's decision that found the state law violated the First Amendment rights of the Butler, Indiana-based Church of the American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. So just consider that for a second, that this law has been upheld to prevent people from using it to intimidate minorities or others. And now, for some reason, which is beyond my ability to understand, we're going to permanently repeal or revoke this law, which I think is dangerous and very, very much misguided. And for those reasons, Mr. President, I will be in the negative.
Senator Ort to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 666, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Adabo, Akshar, Amador, Borrello, Boyle, Brooks, Flanagan, Funky, Gallivan, Gorin, Griffo, Helming, Jacobs, Jordan, Laval, Little, Martinez, O'Mara, Ort, Ranzenhofer, Ritchie, Robach, Savino, and Sereno. Ayes 38, nays 24.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 667, Senate Print 8416 by Senator Metzger, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Fenny, and Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Metzger to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to thank our leader for moving this important bill forward that amends public health law to expand the definition of telemedicine to include video-only and, importantly, audio-only services. During this pandemic, we have relied hugely on telemedicine, which is a great alternative if you have it. But if you don't have access to broadband, and if you don't own a computer, you don't have access to those services. And it puts many people in my district, in my very rural district, at a disadvantage. I have school districts where 20% of the families don't have access to broadband. So this will greatly expand access to affordable telemedicine services by allowing the telephone to be used both for mental health and physical health needs. It is an important immediate step we're taking right now, but we absolutely also have to move forward and close the digital divide that continues to exist in New York on rural broadband between urban and rural areas. This is a top priority. We have to do this. Thank you very much.
Senator Metzger to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed. Calendar 668 is high and will be laid aside for the day. Calendar 669 is high and will be laid aside for the day. Calendar 670 is high and will be laid aside for the day. Calendar 671 is high and will be laid aside for the day. Senator Janoris, that completes the reading of today's supplemental calendar.
President, at this time, can we take up the controversial calendar? We're going to do it slightly out of order, so let us begin with calendar 641.
The secretary will ring the bell. The secretary will read.
Calendar 641, Senate Print 8113A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the public service law.
Senator Gallivan, why do you rise?
Mr. President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment, and I would like to be heard on it.
Thank you, Senator Gallivan. Upon review of the amendment in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, I appeal the chair's ruling, Mr. President, and ask to be recognized.
That appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Gallivan, you may be heard.
I thought I would come over here, if that's all right. You got the microphone? Thank you, Mr. President. This bill resolution is germane as it relates to states of emergency and appropriate legislative response. Our proposed legislation would amend the executive law in relation to the length of time of a state disaster emergency declaration. The proposal would impose a maximum of 30 days for a disaster declaration by the executive. Any continuation of the declaration and the suspension of laws would require legislative approval, as exists elsewhere in the United States. All declarations would be enforced for no more than 30 days without the approval of the legislature. Residents, through their elected representatives in Albany, would have greater participation in the process of how to close and reopen, for instance, a particularly important consideration in light of a potential second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. The bill also requires the governor to transmit weekly reports to the legislature during an emergency declaration and mandates communication by the executive with the parties affected by a suspension of laws during a state disaster emergency. The inconsistency that has occurred in relation to determining what is open and what is essential versus that which is closed and non-essential has proven chaotic and contradictory. leading to unnecessary confusion amongst employers, employees, and residents. By requiring the governor to solicit input from local governments, school districts, individuals, businesses, associations, and other parties affected by suspended laws and other executive actions, the confusion and inconsistencies surrounding executive orders can be greatly reduced. The weekly reports being proposed in the bill could have led to significant improvements in how to properly assist nursing homes or make improvements to the unemployment benefit system, which have been a source of frustration and heartache for many of our constituents. The New York State Constitution, just as the United States Constitution, was established using the principle of separation of powers in order to ensure the three branches of government, including the legislature, were able to function equally to provide a system of checks and balances for our citizens. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the governor has suspended more than 250 laws. While the New York State Constitution grants the executive this authority under a statutorily enacted state disaster emergency declaration, which was expanded in early March, the frequent and sweeping nature with which certain provisions of law have been suspended or extended since then is alarming, especially considering that the state constitution also establishes that the power to create laws rests with the legislature. Executive orders should never be used to circumvent the legislative process or limit the input of elected representatives. This bill ensures the legislature's rightful role as a co-equal branch of government during a state disaster emergency declaration by making the governor's actions subject to review. This does not prevent the executive from doing what he or she feels is necessary to keep the people of New York safe. Rather, it ensures the systems of checks and balances intended by our Constitution. For these reasons, Mr. President, I ask you that you reconsider and rule this resolution germane.
I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ruling of the chair stands and the bill in chief is before the House. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Yeah. Okay. Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 641, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Amador, Borrello, Boyle, Flanagan, Funke, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jacobs, Jordan, Lanza, Laval, Little, O'Mara, Ort, Ranzenhofer, Ritchie, Robot, Sereno, Seward, and Tedisco. Ayes 40, nays 22.
The bill is passed. Senator Janoris.
Mr. President, just to clarify, I think that was the results on calendar 641. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Senator Janoris.
Thank you. I think there might have been someone misspoke. So that was 641, and now can we next take up calendar 654?
The secretary will read.
Calendar number 654, Senate Print 8275A by Senator Martinez, an act to amend the labor law.
Senator Gallivan, why do you rise?
Mr. President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that Senator Helming be recognized and be heard.
Thank you, Senator Gallivan. Upon review of the amendment, in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, I appeal the chair's ruling, Mr. President, and ask that Senator Helming be recognized.
The appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Helming may be heard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to begin by saying it's great to see you. I am going to remove my mask now. I have received messages from people in my community, the deaf community, who are interested and observing and attempting to read my lips, so I will be removing my mask. I believe that both bills are dealing with unemployment insurance, and this bill is germane. We are in the midst of an international health crisis, and this has tested the resiliency of every single one of us. To the families that have been affected by COVID-19, to the loved ones that we've all lost, to our essential workers, we are all with you. But as legislators, we cannot ignore that this is also an economic crisis. Whether it's our agricultural community, manufacturing, Main Street retail stores, healthcare, education, local government, or our important tourism industry, every single sector has been hit hard by the COVID pandemic. According to the Small Business Administration, more than 81,000 federal PPP loans have been issued in New York, totaling more than $20 billion. While this may provide some temporary relief, these businesses have had their incomes limited or completely shut off. Local businesses are at or past their breaking point, and the burdens associated with the pandemic are in addition to the already high cost of doing business in New York State. As legislators, we have a real opportunity to improve the current business climate. This begins by setting aside partisan politics and providing much-needed relief to small businesses, schools, and our healthcare providers so they can safely reopen. During a recent legislative hearing hosted by the Senate Commerce, Economic Development, and Small Business Committee, numerous small business owners from every single corner of this state, as well as organizations representing businesses, such as the National Federation of Independent Businesses, Chamber of Commerce, and many others, strongly requested the legislature take action to hold the cost on unemployment insurance. The bill before us right now, S 8249, would do exactly that by excluding unemployment charges caused by the impact of COVID-19 from being used to calculate an employer's experience rating. This bill would take the important step of ensuring businesses do not face higher insurance premiums because of unemployment claims caused by the COVID-19 crisis. This is not a partisan bill. Both major and minority members support assisting small businesses in this manner. Yet, despite this support, despite the pleas we heard during that hearing and the calls to our offices every single day from businesses asking that we do everything we can to protect them from increasing unemployment costs as a result of the pandemic, the package of bills the majority members chose to put forward does not address this issue. In fact, it does little to help our state's job creators and their employees. But it's not too late for the majority to reverse course and use this opportunity to deliver real relief to get our economy moving again and people safely back to work. Now is the time to offer our small businesses this assistance. I strongly encourage my colleagues to show your support for businesses all across the state by voting yes, that this is germane.
I want to remind the House of the voters of the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ruling of the chair stands and the bill in chief is before the House. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
Senator Helming to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our focus should be on providing assistance to those who are legally entitled to unemployment insurance. People like independent contractors, beauticians, and barbers who have paid into the system and who, through no fault of their own, are now out of work. For many of these hardworking New Yorkers, their claims have gone unresolved for months. I agree with a statement in the sponsor's memo that says a key way we can help is by quickly providing unemployment benefits. But this legislation fails to deliver to those who have followed the rules. Instead, this legislation is focused on timely payments to people who have made false representations and basically cheated the system. For this reason, I'm opposed to this bill, and I strongly encourage the majority to bring to the floor legislation that supports getting payments out to the honest, hardworking citizens who have gone months without their unemployment insurance that they're entitled to. I vote no, Mr. President.
Senator Hellman to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 654, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jacobs, Jordan, Lanza, Little, O'Mara, Ort, Savino, and Tedisco. Ayes 48, nays 14.
The bill is passed. Senator Janaris.
Mr. President, at this time, can we move to calendar 649?
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 649, Senate Print 8192B by Senator Hoylman, an act in relation to prohibiting the eviction of residential tenants who have suffered financial hardship during the COVID-19 covered period. Senator Amador.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the sponsor give an explanation of this bill?
Are you asking the sponsor to yield for a question?
Will the sponsor yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr. President. We know that in this unprecedented time, which has had an enormous and tragic impact on so many Americans, close to 100,000 deaths, and thousands of New Yorkers as well, that there's been also a cascading effect involving job loss and economic hardship. On May 21st, 38.6 million jobs have been reported lost, and that number continues to grow despite states across the nation gradually reopening. We know that in the state of New York, we're looking at job losses of $1 to $2 million. And you think about the perfect and tragic storm that might exist for one of my constituents or one of my colleagues' constituents, where you're sick, you're caring for a loved one, somebody may have died in your family, you're trying to homeschool, you're unemployed, and you're worried about eviction. Well, that's what this bill tries to alleviate in at least one regard, Mr. President. This bill would prohibit courts from evicting residential tenants who've suffered financial hardship through no fault of their own because of COVID-19 during a covered period for non-payment of rent that accrues or becomes due during this reference period. It does not, Mr. President, prohibit a court from awarding a money judgment for the rent due and owed by the tenant. The COVID-19 covered period starts at March 7th, 2020, through the yet determined date, because we are still in the middle of this pandemic, Mr. President, on which none of the provisions closing or otherwise restricting public or private businesses or places of public accommodation or requiring postponement of cancellation of non-essential gatherings of individuals of any size are still in effect. Shorthand, Mr. President, the provisions last through the end of the New York on pause order.
Will the sponsor yield for a couple questions?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr. President.
The sponsor yields.
Through you, Mr. President. Does this bill allow for an eviction proceeding if a tenant does not have a hardship due to the pandemic? Or does this cover just the pandemic period?
Through you, Mr. President, this bill specifically applies to financial hardship due to COVID-19.
Continue to
Does
yield.
the sponsor yield? Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr.
Sponsor
President.
yields.
What is a financial hardship? Can you give us a definition in this bill?
Yes, Mr. President. Through you, this bill would rely on a court making that determination through a number of factors. It would first ensure that the defense for under this bill would apply only to the COVID-19 period, as I described it, and would ensure that the factors that a court would look at would, to determine financial hardship, would be consideration of the tenant's income prior to and during the COVID-19 covered period, the tenant's liquid assets, and the tenant's eligibility for and receipt of various social safety net programs, including SNAP, SSI, case assistance, heat, or unemployment insurance.
Through you, Mr. President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr.
The
President.
sponsor yields.
Does this bill limit a judge to determine the hardship by a factor of 1? You only using one of the criterias that you listed and just read off during a proceeding?
Through you, Mr. President, no. It would be the totality of factors as stated in the bill. A tenant or lawful occupant may raise financial hardship during the COVID-19 period as a defense, and determining whether a tenant or lawful occupant suffered a financial hardship during the covered period, the court shall consider, among other relevant factors that I stated earlier.
President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr.
The
President.
sponsor yields.
I believe you said, Senator Hoylman, that the period of time of this this bill would last during the New York on Pause executive order. Is that correct?
Well, it's perhaps I'm a little inaccurate about that. It's not the governor's, through you, Mr. President, that statement is not in the bill. In effect, that is the case, but it would really delineate that period based on the openings of the businesses and allowance of gatherings. That technically is not New York on Pause, but in effect, it's very similar. So it is possible, Mr. President, to have a regional disparate application of this bill.
Does the sponsor yield? The sponsor yields.
So as the sponsor, Senator Hoylman, mentions about a regional approach, and obviously it's not really linked then to the New York on Pause executive order, which is the order that shut down the economy in the state of New York, which then the negative effect of that was people losing jobs, not having income coming in, and maybe then not paying their rent payments or their mortgages. I don't know why you would have that not be linked to that exact date, but that's not my question. Through you, Mr. President, if you take, as you say, Senator Hoylman, a regional approach, let's just say that in some of these regions, and as the New York State reopens in various phases, and if we were in the last phase of phase 4 of reopening, and some of the regions had a full reopen and others did not, and there was a sporting event venue that could occur with a large gathering, would this bill prohibit that region and landlords of collecting rent or not being able to evict a tenant?
Through you, Mr. President, according to the statute of Section 1, The period would last until beginning March 7th until the date on which none of the provisions that closed or otherwise restricted public or private businesses or places of public accommodation or gatherings for any size continue to exist in this specific county. If my colleague's question is, would the limitations on gatherings mean that this statute would still be in effect in the scenario that he presented? The answer is yes.
Mr. President, will the sponsor continue to yield?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr.
The
President.
sponsor yields.
So if that was the case in a long, drawn-out, slow reopening, and then areas of the state not being able to reopen fully, this bill would then prohibit a landlord of evicting a tenant based on not being paid, based on what you determine, well, financial hardship during, not caused by, because it doesn't say that in the bill, but during this COVID-19 period. So, Mr. President, through you, Senator Hoylman, why did you not put a specific date then in this bill and then link it to the cause of the pandemic?
Mr. President, the only thing that landlords are going to lose in this bill is the right to throw a tenant out onto the street because of COVID-related economic hardship during the period covered. And the bill acknowledges that the opening of our state is a phased-in process that we've witnessed in the last few weeks, a different timetable for different areas. And that is why we have chosen to use a criteria that is based on New York on pause.
Sponsor yield.
Does the sponsor yield? Sponsor
Mr.
yields.
So, Senator Hoylman, I think what you're saying is if a constituent, any of our constituents, during this period of COVID-19 didn't lose their job, was still able and fortunate to work, and maybe suffered some type of financial hardship because maybe the stock market went down, or maybe they just got divorced. They wouldn't have to pay their rent under this bill, and then they wouldn't get evicted.
This bill is specifically related to COVID-19 hardship. That would be for the judge's determination. I think it is important to note that the landlord loses nothing. He or she still has the ability to issue a money judgment. They'll be paid in full as the court so directs. We're just extending a hand of humanity during this crisis, Mr. President. This is not landlords versus tenants. This is about New Yorkers helping each other through an unprecedented health and economic hardship.
On the bill.
Senator Amador on the bill.
I want to thank the sponsor of the bill for indulging in some of the questions and some of the answers, though he's a very educated person and man who understands law, as well as I'm sure he serves his constituents in the finest manner, and I consider him a friend. In this case, though, I bear to differ in some of the thinking behind this. I will agree that what he said about being kind and courteous and generous and in a time of need, we need to all be showing more charity to one another. And I know that there's a lot of landlords out there who do that and who have already demonstrated all of that during this period of time. The governor laid out in his executive order this moratorium, or a time period that there will be no evictions in the state of New York because of this crisis. A bill like this it could maybe seem like a feel-good bill, or sounds like maybe the majority is trying to do, or the legislature is trying to do something. But there's already protections in the state of New York on every single tenant in the state of New York right now. This bill goes beyond that. This bill takes away anybody's ability who may own a two-family home and rents upstairs or downstairs and lives on one of the floors themselves and may not be able to evict after this executive order is removed based on not being paid. To limit the financial factors or the hardship here not being defined and define it such that it is COVID-related and caused by the pandemic, to me, is just ludicrous. This sounds like, to me, an open door to just tell the millions of tenants in the state of New York, you know what? You don't have to pay your rent. Just claim that you got financial hardship. You lost some money somewhere, some liquid assets somewhere. Or maybe you've gone through a change of life and I want to live in this apartment, I like this address, but I'm not paying my landlord and I'm not going to be able to get convicted. This is not the message that we should be sending. Matter of fact, this is not the bill that we should be doing. You want to be able to give help to everyone in a time of need that we all are in and under, then it's a matter of how we can strengthen the economy, how we can make New York more affordable, how can the landlords pay for the property taxes and the insurances and the cost to operate and all the CAM charges that happens within that property. And how can we put all of those residents in these buildings, in these structures, to work again? Not live on a social welfare program to be their source of income, but to go back and earn a living wage that they also choose and want to do. We need to do better than this, because this bill will lead to, we don't have to pay the rent, and I can live here as long as I want. Let's not take advantage of an already bad situation in a crisis, because there's a lot of good landlords and there's a lot of good tenants that have worked things out, and they have extended payments or made provisions to still live in the building or in the apartment and the resident that they just can't afford right now because of hardship. So, Mr. President, I believe that there is a better way to do this, and one that we can show charity and love and respect to our neighbor, to our tenant, and to all the small businesses. But without the lack of definition, without the lack of dates, and taking and limiting judges' determinations of hardship here, I cannot support this bill. I'll be voting in the negative. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hoylman. Okay. Senator Boyle.
Will the sponsor yield for a couple questions?
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes, Mr. President.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. Senator Hoylman, I truly appreciate the good nature and good heart that you have bringing this bill forward, but I think I have some of the same issues with this as my colleague, Senator Amador. You mentioned, I hope you didn't misspeak, that you said this was for financial hardships due to the COVID outbreak. Page 1, line 14 of the bill clearly says, no court shall issue a warrant of eviction or judgment of possession against a residential tenant or other lawful occupant that has suffered financial hardship during the COVID-19 covered period. Not due to, but during. Now, I know my colleague, Senator Amador, mentioned you might have had a loss in the stock market. I could see a court saying that was due to the hardship, the financial pandemic crisis. What if I decided to go and let it ride at some casino down south that I found open? Lost everything, can't pay my rent, but it's during the pandemic next week. Should I be able to not pay my rent? It's during the period, according to this bill.
I swallowed my words because of the face mask. But we certainly don't want to overburden courts. I'm having a hard time hearing. Could my colleague restate his question?
Senator Boyle, can you repeat your question?
I simply want to know that, so you're saying any financial hardship during, not necessarily due to. Again, if I went next week, went down and bet at a casino everything I have and lost, and I was unable to pay my rent because due to financial hardship of my own doing, I should not have to pay my rent. Is that correct, according to this law, this bill?
Through you, Mr. President, you do have to pay your rent, and I have to contest your colleague's description that New Yorkers are going to say, I don't have to pay my rent. In fact, it's very clear in the last section, Section 3 of the bill, says it doesn't prohibit at all courts from awarding money judgments due to rent owed. So the whole point of this bill is that you got to pay your rent. But the ancillary, an important component, is that if you've suffered economic hardship during the period, as determined by a court, then you will not be evicted for that rent owed. Only during that period.
Does the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
I misspoke. You do have to pay your rent. You would have to pay your rent. It may be a year or two down the road, but I could not be evicted if I went next week and gambled all my money away and could not pay the rent. The landlord said, "Hey, Phil, I heard you were down in Vegas last week and lost all your money. Can you pay me? Can you pay me rent? Otherwise, I'm going to start an eviction proceeding." I'll say, "No, you can't, because I have no money. I have financial hardships during the pandemic. Come see me after it's over."
The landlord would be able to get that money judgment right away. Nothing prohibits a landlord from receiving his or her money judgment for rent owed for whatever reason. The only issue is that if a court determined that an individual's economic position was caused by COVID-19 during the period that we are discussing, then that individual could not be evicted.
If you continue to miss payments, then you can.
Senator Boyle on the bill.
I think that the difference between during and due is monumental. I could certainly support the idea, and obviously we want to help those individuals who are suffering financial hardships due to the COVID crisis. That's what we should be there for. But not anybody who suffers financial hardship through their own cause, their own fault, during this period. The other issue I have, Mr. President, with this bill is, as my colleague Senator Amador said, the end period. We're going to wait until the very last executive order regarding this pandemic, and that could be, I would love to see, and I hope there is, I pray there is, a vaccine next week, and it's all over. But right now, I'm thinking we may not see full football stadiums or hockey arenas, or maybe the Mets playing for another year or two. So are people not going to be evicted for 2 years? This is what I'm talking about. You are going to create a rental crisis. And I'll give you the perfect example. It happened literally this morning. I was talking to a constituent of mine. She called and said they had a two-family house, renter lived upstairs. Tragically, one of them died, 37 years old, from COVID. His partner had to leave, couldn't afford the rent anymore. She said, now we have to find another tenant. However, there's no way I'm going to rent this place because that person could be there for 2 years and not pay their rent, and I cannot evict them. That's one person in this case. I understand a lot of the colleagues in New York City think all these landlords are billionaires and multi-millionaires. These are the big bad people that we have to protect the little folks against. We do want to protect renters. But by keeping this open-ended, we're going to stop people from renting in New York State. No one is going to rent their multifamily dwelling, their apartment complex, if they think that their tenants potentially could live there for more than a year and they can't evict them if they do not pay rent. It's going to create the crisis. Well-intentioned, but I see unintended consequences with this piece of legislation. And that is the reason, Mr. President, I had to vote in the negative.
Wishing to be heard. Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Janoris, Kruger, Stewart, Cousins, Thomas.
All right. Announce the results. Oh, sorry. Senator Hoylman to explain his vote.
Mr. President, I wanted to thank my colleagues, Senate Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins in particular, for the support of the Tenant Safe Harbor Act, my Assembly sponsor, Assemblymember Dinowitz, and my Senate co-prime sponsor, Senator Liz Kruger, who was working on this bill with me. Let me first say that the characterization that this is going to cause a rent crisis, I think is inaccurate. I believe that something that has not been mentioned is the fact that if a landlord views a tenant as not paying rent, he or she doesn't have to renew their lease and can have a holdover proceeding in connection with that. Every safeguard that a landlord has to seek a money judgment and to have it within their power to renew a lease or not remains in the landlord's control as it currently is under law. What this does, I think, Mr. President, is to address the real concern, which is this potential tsunami of eviction proceedings once the courts begin reopening. People who've lost their jobs and worried, they're worried they're going to be evicted and forced into homelessness in the middle of a massive public health crisis. And New York is at the center of this crisis. As I said, over 1 million New Yorkers have been laid off or furloughed since the pandemic began. So many of them have been reaching out to our offices, desperate for assistance. We don't call that a handout. We call that a hand up because of the circumstances that are beyond the control of everyone, including those of us who serve in this chamber. And I commend Governor Cuomo for his establishment of an eviction moratorium. But when that ends, we could see this tidal wave of evictions to begin in New York. So that's why it's so important we pass the Tenant Safe Harbor Act today. It's going to continue to protect tenants who have experienced financial hardship during this state of emergency. It'll prevent those tenants from being evicted for non-payment that comes due as long as restrictions on businesses or public gatherings on place. And it'll allow landlords to collect and continue to accrue rent from those tenants. I think it is a very balanced approach that protects our tenants in their homes during an unprecedented crisis, but also recognizes that landlords, small or large, have their own financial hardships. And as we continue to fight our way through this crisis, Mr. President, I look forward to help from the federal government on mortgage relief, on rental relief, I look forward to legislation that we're considering tomorrow to help renters and landlords with the payment of rent. So thank you, Mr. President. I'm very proud of this bill and my colleagues for their support. I vote aye.
Senator Hoylman, to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 649, those senators voting in the negative are Senators Akshar, Amador, Borrello, Boyle, Felder, Flanagan, Funky, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jacobs, Jordan, Lanza, Laval, Martinez, O'Mara, Ort, Ranzenhofer, Ritchie, Robach, Sereno, Seward, and Tedesco. Ayes 39, nays 23.
The bill is passed. Senator Janaris, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
May.
Without objection, Senator May be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for allowing me to explain my vote on a bill that passed earlier this afternoon, Senate Bill 8181A. Our Main Street businesses are the lifeblood of our communities, and they make our neighborhoods places we all want to live. There are barber shops and our hair salons, our florists, and the family restaurant where you want to celebrate your anniversary, or the craft gallery that sells the art of local artists. They need our help now, and this bill allows industrial development agencies to give them resources so that they can reopen safely and successfully, to make bridge loans and to make PPE and other materials available to them. So I want to thank the leadership for allowing this bill to come to a vote, my colleague in the Assembly, Al Sturpey, for sponsoring it there, and my colleagues for passing it. Thank you.
Senator Janaris.
One more time, by unanimous consent, Mr. President, can you recognize Senator Thomas?
Without objection, Senator Thomas may be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Janaris, for allowing me to speak on S81-3A by Senator Parker. I would like to thank our Majority Leader, Andrew Stewart-Cousins, for bringing this bill to the floor, and to the sponsor, Senator Kevin Parker. This is a very important bill to consider during this health pandemic. Everyone should have access to utilities, as it is essential for keeping our communities safe and healthy. For example, water is even more important now because proper hygiene is required to stop the spread of coronavirus, and everyone must have access to clean water in their homes. That is exactly why this bill is so important. It prevents utility shutoffs during a state of emergency, requires reconnection within 48 hours of disconnection, extends the moratorium on utility shutoffs for 180 days beyond the state of emergency, requires the utility to offer a restructuring of payments owed to the utility, and requires the utility to inform all customers of their right to have a continued utility service during the state of emergency. This will go a long way to protect consumers, and as Chair of Consumer Protection, I want to say thank you again to Senator Parker for introducing this. I vote aye.
Senator Janaris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we lay aside for the day calendar 664?
The bill will be laid aside for the day.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I move to adjourn until tomorrow, May 28th, at noon, 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned on tomorrow to May 28th at noon.